Hey everyone, so today I will be talking about something related to this Google task, and a specific UI just comes to my mind which I did wanted to try out from a very long time. And yeah, it's here. So if I write something to this list, and let's get started right off the bat, and I've written write something. Yeah, that's good. So if I click on mark as completed, you would see something like a check appear, and yeah, this is gone here. But that particular UI, what happens is, like, if I write what happens, and yeah, I'm just writing some bunch of randoms, and if I click on this, you will notice there was a very specific animation that did occur, and this is what we would be talking about or dealing with today. I also got a chance to have that particular animation here. So I got this animation frame by frame, and this is something that actually would help you understand like how this animation occurs. So we can see it in front of our eyes that when we hover it, it directly changes to a check mark, and the circle of the previous border, or let's just say that if this was a div element, then this border versus what happens now is that we have a bigger width and height of that particular div and a circle without a border, so something like that, and a check mark obviously, as you can see. So this transforms to this right within a frame that doesn't take any kind of animation. And then when we are hovering over it, then we can see that there is a bit of a change in the background color that happens, and just keep watching it, and there would be something that happens when we click. So yeah, at this moment when we have clicked it, we are seeing some dots, and let's just fast forward the animation, and it goes away. It stays here and goes away, and that's it. So we would be trying to make this like, how can we hover over this particular check item, it becomes this check item, and then when we are over it and we just click on this, then it goes like this. And let's understand this. I already have this coded up in a code pen, and I'll be taking a look at it. So how does it happen? Let's understand. One thing that I would do is, and I would be sure that that was something I was just testing out, is if I have hovered it, then also I want to see the check mark. Don't worry about the code at the moment. I understand that this is something that we would be uncovering together. But now if I hover over it, we can see this particular check mark, and if I click, you can see all the animations occur, and this is now in checked mode. And if I again click, it just goes back. Click again, click again, click again, and you can see the animation. So how did I make this, and how can you make this, most importantly? So what I will be doing is I will be just commenting out a bunch of code that I feel that at this moment is not very much needed to be I would say be covering about or be talking about, and I would be mostly talking about the code that is like what can get you started with the most basic thing. So the very first thing that I'm seeing here is I have added a margin 0 or padding 0, some just basic styling. And then after that I have picked up a color from OKLCH, which is like OK Lab. So I have been picking colors from oklch.com, which gives me something like, if I go here, I will get a color in the P3 range, and I will just pick up this. So this is like much more vibrant than this. I know that you cannot see the difference because of the kind of recording that we are doing, but it allows you to pick colors that are like in the wider gamut range that was previously not possible and is still not possible with the default RGB. So this is why they also have these defaults. So yeah, I picked up a color that is in the P3 color space. I have just made my content to the center. That's all that the body is doing, nothing else. I have chosen a size of this particular circle, and we do not worry about the pills or whatever that thing is. So it will still work. Then I have defined CSS property. What is property? This is something that allows us to get this value as a data, and I will just show you that how property, or where you can learn about it more. And this allows us certain things like animating gradients or some of the properties that were not previously allowed. So we are storing it as a data, and we would be able to change it the way we want, and it allows us to have some kind of transition that was not possible before. So something like this. So this was coded by me very recently into the MD and web docs, and I added this property because we do need to understand like how it is doing, what it is doing, and why do we need this. So if I were to do this progress without having this, and let's just see so that we can understand that what kind of data it is and how it is better. So yeah, if I remove this property, we can see that we cannot even animate between the gradient or things like that. So yeah, it allows a certain kind of animation between certain values for certain syntaxes, and we are using it specifically so that we can use our pill. That pill thing was the 6 dots that you were seeing. So those were like pill shape. That's why I called it pill. But yeah, we can remove this. And the other thing is like the size. So this 60 pixel. And why am I talking about size? Because you can see that the size here and the size here are like exactly the same, but the way that we want it is that the size should initially be 50, and this is like the change that I wanted to do here, and this should be initially be 50. And if I am now in a mode, so I can see that now the size is increasing and it has increased, yeah. But if I am hovering over it, then the size is still can be animated. What I mean is that we have a check mark here that is a border first, and when we hover it, it becomes this whole check mark. When we click on it, it stays like this check mark, but it still has this hovering animation which just changes the size between 50 and 60 pixel. We would be taking a deeper look at this later on as well. So yeah, for now just think that this is the size of this particular circle which is having just the border, and do not worry about the hover style. So what we can do right now is just have the hover and the check and the check and hover and just the check to be commented out. Yeah, did I comment out everything that is at the moment not necessary? Yeah. So now what you can see is we have this circle, and I believe that many of you would say, yeah, we can make this, that's super easy. And let's just understand like what do I mean by this, and what is this particular starting point or a base. So we have a label tag here, and we have an input checkbox here, and now we have positioned the label with position relative, which means that we would be absolutely positioning something relative to it, which are like the dots we would be taking a look at later. And we have this input checkbox. This input checkbox has a cursor pointer, which is why this cursor pointer is happening. We have the position relative because we do want something absolutely positioned with relative to this, which was the check mark and the whole circle and all that happens on hover, as you have already seen. We made the appearance none. This is because we do not want the default check symbol. We are dealing with this, right? We do not want that. So that's why appearance none, because we are using checkbox as something to check. So we want to focus about something that we are styling HTML syntax that is already there. So the markup is already existing and we are making some accessible solution with it. So yeah, and we have a block size and an inline size with the variable of size, which is like 50. So at this moment, just focus that this is 50. It is not getting animated. It is just that bland 50 pixel size of height and width with a border 50%. So it is now a circle. It has a border color, the color that you are seeing, because other than that, it is not colored on its background. So the only color that you see is the border that exists. And now we have an after element, and this after is the pseudo element that exists. And we are saying, hey, just position something which is after for this and have it at the very center. How we are going to use this after? Let's see. So we also have something like hover, right? So with hover, we can see that what we are doing, we are saying that when you are hovering over it, and we can just say that after at the moment is not doing anything. It is having some kind of a blank element that does not exist, and it is just saying that this blank element is something that should have been existed. We can just think that this blank element is this check mark for the moment, because that is what it will be. And you can see the check mark is here, and it's here for like forever. We haven't just directly did the check mark styling with after without an hover. That's why. So yeah, just remove this content image at the moment, which is the check mark image. I have taken this image as a base64 URL by using the icon from fonts.google, and let's keep it vanilla at the moment without the check mark. With the hover, what we have is that we are saying that if you're hovering over it, change the background color to this and change the size as well to this. So the size is at the moment changing directly without any animation. Just change the size. So you can see that the size changes. If I were to change the size to 100, you can see that the size has no animation whatsoever. So we can see, so no animation, directly change the size. That's okay. And we are saying that make an animation just for the background color, which is like animation name is called opaque, and this is an animation to change the background color's opacity by zero 0.1 to 0.2. Why are we doing this? Because as we saw previously, when we were seeing each of the frames of the task check mark, then the color was changing certainly when we have hovered and taking a bit of a delay there. So this is to just mimic that kind of animation. And let's keep moving. Now we also want to define something like what happens when we have checked it. Like there should be something that happens when we have checked it, right? So what happens when we have checked it is that it stays like this. It has the background color as we wanted. It has no border whatsoever because we never wanted a border. And then when we have it in checked mode, it has a transition on both the block size and the inline size, which is like changing the size between 60 and 50. So the block size would be changing between 50 and 60 because the 60 is the block size when you are hovering over it, and 50 is the initial value and the default sizing without doing anything. So this is why in the check mode it sort of animates because we have the transition defined inside the check mode, but without it, and that's the like smart part, it does not have any kind of animation whatsoever and just directly changes. So we are mimicking the animation in the correct way. If this transition was outside, it would have affected both the places, so we are not doing it outside. And the next thing, now we are saying that okay, I also want to see what happens if it is checked and hovered. We are using the is pseudo class, which is a helper for us. And then we are saying that if you are checked and you are hovered, I want the check mark to exist in both the places. Why in both the places? Because, and let's just let the pen rerun, because if we have it in hover mode, we should see the check mark right as we see it in the Google task, and if we have it checked, then also we should be seeing the check mark the way we want it. So this is the, I would say, the easy part, something that is just because we wanted the check mark to have this kind of a UI on hover, checked, and caring about these pseudo classes, and just having this property so that we can do some kind of fun sizing and play with that. But yeah, now let's keep moving, and now I will be talking about these multiple span elements with different dots and their data color and data rotate. What do they mean? Like, what is the whole thing? So yeah, right now if I have this uncommented, you can see that nothing happens because these are just span elements without any content inside it. They do not do anything on their own. And now we are going to make some sizes for them. It will have a radius of 4 pixel, a height and a width that would exist for them. And we would be using another property because we would be changing their size. You have already seen when we were changing the frames, the pills were going outside, but they were also increasing a bit in their length or their width in this case. So we also want to take care of that. And let's keep going. So we are going to say that if you are in check mode, then only I care about this span element, otherwise I do not. And this is why they all only exist in the check mode. And in the check mode, I am saying that they will have a position absolute, they will have something like let's just do one thing, because we do not want to only see them in the check mode for now. Let's see them in a mode without a check, and let's not move them out, let's not do the animation thing at all. So, and let's make them opaque as well. So you can see that these dots exist. Yeah, there's a bit of a change in the margin that we can do here, but other than that, these dots say that we are positioned absolute, we have a content empty, and each of us are like having a block and an inline size that exists. The block size is the height, the inline size is the width, and they exist like this. And we have a border radius, which is the pill radius, and this pill radius also exists. We do not change on check or uncheck because you have commented out the animation opacity and the checked from here, so that's why they just are directly visible in front of you, and we have a translation and all those properties so that at the end we are visible here. But there are two catches here. The first catch is data color, which is defined by background color attribute, and this is the more powerful new attribute that exists, which is this whole talk about. So this is not about Google task checkbox. This is more about showcasing like what is this new attr and how does it work. So if I click and see attr, it was really recently updated, and the new powerful attr attribute is like not supported everywhere, but it's like really strong and has its own property, which is like at the moment just experimental. So what we are seeing is this new powerful attribute, and this new powerful attribute has some really good examples here that we can see. One of the example is if we have something like data rotation and we say that you to rotate just respective of that, and we add the data rotation here, so you can see that I'm rotated by -3 degrees only because the -3 was here. So this is like one of the more powerful experimental technology. And we also have it for background color, like say data background is lime, and we have this attr say that data background should be type of color, and we have defined it. So we have type properties for attribute that exists, and we can use it to our advantage. And we have. So here what we have is the background color, which is the first catch, which is using colors from each of them. This is why we have them colored the right way, and the rotation, which is like rotating it the right way. So this is why we do not have a lot of CSS going for each of them. We do not have to care for each of them because we are caring for each of them on their HTML markup itself. So yeah, this is like more efficient way of doing this. And now for the best part, when we have made sure that we understand how these are styled and defined, let's keep them at opacity 0 and make our move out animation. Yeah, so the move out animation says that I will go from 0 to 1. That's like totally not rocket science. That's like the most trivial thing that we want to have it visible. And then we say that yeah, when you are moving out, the animation is just for once. So obviously after the animation it will again go hidden with 0 opacity. And when you are making this opacity, the pill width should change to 24, which is like the width of the pills should be increasing. So this is why when we click on it, nothing is happening because we have to define it at check mode here. And when we do that, then on checked, when we have checked it, you can see that these dots are going outside, and this is what we wanted. And I can just zoom in here. We can see that there is a bit of a margin error, or they are like a bit on the right side. This is something that you can just tweak out. I think that if I do this to 2 pixel, I'm just checking that where would this go then, or would it change when I change it from here, because this is like where the animation is. So let's just try that. Okay, so what I do understand it, if it was 0, then it would have been on the center. Or it could be 2 pixels. But yeah, the thing that we are doing it, we can look for that, is that each of them would have the increase in size, and the transform origin would increase based on the size. Each of them have the size of this 50 pixel, which is like the bigger circle. Each of them are like on the circumference of this circle, and we are saying just move out by 15 pixel towards the outside, and just have them moving outside. If this was plus, then it would have been moving inside, which we can just see. And let it just say, and yeah, so you can see that that was a very different kind of animation. Yeah, never expected that to happen. Whoop, whoop. But yeah, what I was saying is that with -1 they move outside, and you have defined like just go outside towards the circumference with a +15 and just move out. And here we had defined the transform origin. This is just a bit of math. The main point I want to get across is that you should know how to use this attr functions and use them to your advantage, so that you can make these kind of whole mathematical situations where you understand like I want these dots to exist on the circumference, have the opacity of 1, so that we can see that they are at the right place and they should be moving out. And that's the whole logic of this. If I change this to -2, was I actually on the correct spot? Okay, more or less I was. So let's see, because now I have them visible at all times, I'm able to see where do they go, and most probably I will be able to make them actually at the right, yeah. So I think that more or less right now they are correct, but yeah, let's just keep checking. I want each of them to be as it should be, and I want that we are, yeah. So more or less these are right now on the circumference of this particular circle. We can do a -1 pixel, which was okay. And now if I just keep them in the check mode and I keep the opacity to 0, and now I check like how do they animate, we can see they are going outside the way that we wanted. So yeah, and I hope that you enjoyed this. I would be really happy if you would try this animation, try the new attribute, just keep making examples and learn from the new CSS5 properties and technologies that are coming. These new rule sets are like really amazing. And yeah, and one more thing that I did see, that when we have checked it and when we hover, we do not actually understand if it is like already checked. So like right now it is unchecked, but because I have hovered it, I see it as a check mark. So what we can do is, and I think that which brings me like how I had the whole code in the start of the situation, is not to show the hover but the check, because now we can see that yeah, this is unchecked and we just have it without the check mark. That's okay. And now we can actually understand, yeah, the whole difference when we are doing this. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it, make new versions of it, feel free to code and feel free to understand these new properties that exist. Thank you so much for this joining this, and have a very nice day ahead. See ya.